other interesting political news, you have Vivek's podcast chat on ESG Score and the government controlling businesses and the invisible hand of the government, going quite viral. So it looks like it was a podcast in which he was interviewing someone by the name, it looks like it's a comedian named Dave Smith, and it's not too long, about 5 minutes here. So I'll crank that up the volume slightly. And in terms of the pretext, it's before the video, Vivek says, quote, "Our founding fathers fought the American Revolution to declare independence from the old world monarchy. It now rears its head again in the form of ESG and stakeholder capitalism," unquote. He continues, quote within a quote, he continues to say, quote, "The ESG question isn't even a Republican versus Democratic question. It's an age-old 1776 question," unquote. And without further ado.
I mean, I know you've done a lot. You've probably been all over this topic more than anybody else. But the fact that so much of this kind of woke ideology, which is really anti-everything traditional values, is pumped in by, number one, by college universities, which are basically a government program. As
government creatures, absolutely.
Yes, I mean, the governments are the ones giving out the loans so kids can go to these schools, whether they're private or public.
The only guaranteed loans. You can declare bankruptcy, you can get rid of your medical debt, get rid of your car debt. You can abdicate from all responsibility except student loans. And because they're backed by the government, there's no incentive for the lenders to actually say, maybe we shouldn't give a degree for underwater basket weaving. That probably won't give them an ROI so they can pay us back. But partially, I digress.
And then also the fact that so many of these, like, which I actually learned from you, but that so many of these, like, public sector pensions actually demand of these financial companies that they have these kind of woke agendas if they're going to get the money.
Which you pull the string up all the way, it's actually a government actor, not even BlackRock. Go upstream of BlackRock, it goes to CalPERS, which is a government creature. So there's also some areas where on the woke thing, while we're pausing on that, is it comes from the government in terms of hard laws from the government too. The Civil Rights Acts. Okay, so the Civil Rights Acts say you can't discriminate on the basis of race, gender, sexual orientation, now included religion, national origin, and otherwise. But combined with the
unless you're Best Buy and you want to discriminate against Christians. They're apparently being sued, but not hardly quick enough.
Administrative state, like the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the EEOC, what that came to mean was through the law, through regulations, right, which were never actually passed by elected representatives, but by unelected bureaucrats, came to mean that if you're an employer, you're a private company, you can't create a what they call hostile work environment for a member of a protected class. So what began as a non-discrimination provision, that you can't discriminate against hiring somebody, now says you can't create a hostile work environment for that member of a protected class. Well, how does one go about creating a hostile work environment? Turns out that allowing the expression of certain viewpoints in the workplace, that itself is a civil rights violation because you have created a hostile work environment. So there's a grandma who wears a red sweater on Fridays to commemorate those who are serving in the military. A guy who's a member of a protected class says that he considers that a microaggression. She no longer has wearing it on Fridays and no longer has the happy hour in the office. She just brings the red sweater and puts it on the back of her chair. He still asserts microaggression. The company is now in a position to say if they don't tell her that she can't do that, that they might be liable under the Civil Rights Acts themselves. And so this is the government creating the conditions for rampant viewpoint discrimination, call it woke capitalism, call it what you want, rampant viewpoint discrimination in the private sector while leaving political viewpoints unprotected. So it's not the market or the culture that's giving us to us. It's not the invisible hand of the market. It is the invisible hand of government that's guiding us to what looks like a cultural phenomenon of, woke epidemics or whatever. So yes, I agree with you that many people, especially in the conservative movement, who will offer and then turn to a government solution by playing tug of war, miss the point that it was actually first step. What I say is, at least try it. Why don't we just try not paying people not to have more money to be a single mother than to be a dual parent mother, than to say we need a government program to subsidize some sort of pro-family creation. Just try removing the thing that actually created the skewed incentives in the first place, and let's see how that goes. We've never done that in this country. And that's where you have you would say you have a fairly libertarian-leaning audience here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a hardcore libertarian. I think the audience is
Well,
is
whatever the
diverse,
audience is,
but yeah.
but to your libertarian friends, and
Yeah.
I'm a former self-described libertarian, and probably still have a lot. I definitely have a lot of those instincts still deep in my bones. Though I call myself a conservative for reasons we can talk about. I think there's more to life than just the relationship with the government. But what I would say to our libertarian friends is, just as I'll sort of speak truth to my camp of conservatives or liberals who disagree with me, to the libertarian group, is don't back off of your principles even when it's hard, right? Standing up for the repeal of protected categories in the Civil Rights Acts, that's a difficult thing to do in the current climate. But when you're frustrated with conservatives who are then offering other stupid solutions at times that are symptomatic therapies of how you should use government power to change wokeism, and I hear the libertarian frustration with that. My only advice back is, great, but then have the courage to actually stand up for your own principles by repealing the protected categories in the Civil Rights Act, as opposed to hiding in a hole, which is what many of them go on to do.
I don't
you
know
get what I'm
if
saying, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So I'm completely with you on that.
In terms of the commentary and all statistics, it looks like in a mere 8 hours, it got 71.2 thousand views. Pretty good. And got 847 likes, coming in a ratio of 1.19%. Not too shabby. Now, it looks like the top responses in the video, one coming from Ryan Wazicki saying, quote, "When oil companies are the top ESG and Tesla isn't one, you can easily tell it's a bogus fraud," unquote. He got 513 views and 10 likes, giving a ratio of 1.95%, which is fascinating. The people who are making ESG scores, they believe EVs are great for the environment. Long-term ROI, no. Great for the environment? They look great for the environment, and they think they are. So that's their thought, the people who are sending these scores out, but they won't give Tesla an ESG score. Why is that? Is it because Elon is a polarizing figure, someone who's involved in politics, someone who is not all in on the government? I can't help but think, yeah, probably. Now, other popular comments are one from a gentleman by the name of Yogi, and I did some little bit of digging. It is not Yogi the Bear. So I'm sorry to disappoint folks that unfortunately is not Yogi the Bear. But nevertheless, this Yogi said, quote, "Right, when will people realize this? They need to think wisely," unquote. Now this person got 1,128 views and 8 likes. And unfortunately, I did not use the good old calculator. So we're going to do some basic. I know, actually, this will be good because public test scores are all-time low for many topics and subjects, mathematics included. So we'll do some math today. I'm going to do 8. We got those. What was it? Let's see here. Got 8 likes. And he had. So you're going to take 8 divided by 1,128. That'll give you 0.007709. Now we're going to multiply that by 100 to turn into a percentage. Gives you a percentage of 0.709. So we're going to round up to 0.71%. We have now learned more than some public school attendees have, as bleak as that might sound. Now, in terms of the other popular comments, you have someone by the name of, legitimately, their name is this, Vivek Ramaswamy Press Release Parody. That is the person's name. It is quite a mouthful, some might say. Now, this person said, quote, "We are surging in the polls," unquote. That person got 316 views and 9 likes, coming in at a pretty good ratio of 2.84%. Not too shabby. In terms of moves on the political chessboard, ESG scores have become increasingly very polarizing. Many people are starting to realize they're nothing more than a political, maybe would say a bludgeon to beat your enemies over the head with. And businesses are actually adopting, although I would argue they're just putting a face on, perhaps like Two-Face in the movie Star Trek. I'm kidding. I know it's bad. Nevertheless, you had McDonald's, one of the largest, most successful restaurants in history. They actually removed ESG verbiage and vernacular from their public-facing website. So we are seeing a shift in terms of the appeal, at least from a public perception, of these scores. Now, there is also about $70 trillion in assets who want that score, aka the large investment firms that push this. So it's not very not very fair fight in terms of resource allocation. So it's going to be an uphill battle, some might say. But in terms of moves on the political chessboard, I think that's a prudent one to choose. I think a lot of people, people on the right are already, on average, are more against the ESG scores. I think there are a couple people, maybe a couple on the left, and I think there's a fair amount in the middle, politically speaking, who are starting to see what the mask fall of what ESG scores are standing for and what they really are and what they really do. I think a lot of people woke up to that fact when Tesla, again, which from the people who make the scores up, they think Tesla the EVs are very green, but they didn't give Tesla a positive ESG score. They gave it to oil companies. So it's one of those interesting things. I think that fact had a lot of people realize the scores might not be fair and might be a political tool. And I think this stance by Vivek, that'll be a good move on the political chessboard. I think that message will resonate with more people he's trying to win over to his camp as he's trying to ramp up his percentage and fight for the nominee for the Republican Party. But let me know in the comments, do you think this is a winning issue, so to say? Or do you think it's a waste of resources on his end? It's a waste of time to talk about it? Or do you think it'll actually hurt him in some way? It'll be interesting to see, but as I always say, time shall tell. Thank you everyone so much for taking the time to tune in today. Also, I know we're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of September, so if you could click that button, I would greatly appreciate it. Also, don't forget to take the time to like and comment the video. I really appreciate your feedback, whether you're on the front line of the UAW or in the corporate office at Ford. Your feedback makes the show much more interesting and it's able to make me update the videos with even more data, and it really helps it, I think, make a better experience. And also, the feedback improves the show because thanks to the comments, I realize I need to actually work on my enunciation as well as my articulation and slowing down a little bit when I'm speaking. So together, we're going to make the show together that much better, and I greatly appreciate your participants. Also, don't forget to take the time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe and fight the good fight.